Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. We have a surprise for you today. I got my hands on the very first 2025 new Cummins with the ZF Powerline, or whatever Mopar wants to call it, a TorqueFlite. We'll stay with Powerline because it sounds better. But the brand new Cummins, this is the first one that we've gotten in our dealership. And I got my hands on it. I've already gotten to take it out for a little bit of a spin around the block. I love it. I love the way the transmission shifts and feels, and its responsiveness. It doesn't have that massive turbo lag like that one does, which we'll show you here in a second. It just feels much more solid and feels much more like it wants to get up and tow something. So let's get into this thing. It's gorgeous for one. I'm excited. You know, a lot of you guys have heard me talk about I don't like to buy the first year of any product, and I'm still going to hold true to that. But the potential for this thing is outrageous. Starting off with, you got a intake manifold that you can unbolt and take off. For those of you who want to see fuel rail, fuel lines, and they're sitting on top of the intake manifold. That's aluminum, and it bolts to the engine head, the cylinder head. So that's going to be a massive upgrade for everybody who's wanting to start upgrading. And I'm sure Banks has got their mitts into designing a new intake manifold to help these things breathe a hell of a lot better. Now, the bad thing about this intake manifold is, of course, the EGR valve. You know, every one of us hates talking about emissions and stuff like that, but this one, that EGR valve comes right down into the middle of the path of flow right here. And we're going to attach a couple pictures of one that's already been taken apart. I got my mitts on some of those too. Anyway, it takes up a third of the space coming in from your cold air cooler. So that sucks, but the rest of it. So any weight loss programs that go on with these, we're going to get a lot of benefit from that. Another thing you're going to see back here are two fuel filters mounted to the engine. We're going to go through and show underneath the truck and show you how that frame mounted fuel filter is no longer present, but now they're both right there. And then we've also got the magic oil filter right here on top, nice and easy to get to. I'm not a fan of that. I think we should have left it down on the bottom. Didn't have any problems with them down there. So
CCV.
So the CCV still in the same place right here. Here's your sensor, there's your tube going back down to the turbo. Still not a fan of the whole setup, but it's a lot easier to get to than it was. The other two, the back two bolts, were kind of back underneath the cowl a little bit more. You had to get a couple special little tools to get them out, but this one looks like it's going to be a lot easier to get to.
Nice. Now, should people still do that 15,000 mile service for the oil change?
Oh, God no. I don't care what engine it is. You don't run 15,000 miles on an oil change. We can bark this until everybody has had their chance to throw their comments out there. I don't care who you are, what engineering firm you belong to, how many oil samples you send off. I can feel it in my fingers that an engine with 15,000 miles on it does not have the same lubricity in the oil as brand new oil going in there. Period. Hands down. That conversation's now over, because if you argue with me, you're wrong.
Now, to clarify, Stellantis still says 75,000 mile interval for your CCV. Some people recommend 50K. What do you say?
So Stellantis hasn't been clear on what they want. So you go back to the 4th gens and it was 67,500. You go up to the 5th gens and sometimes they would come on at 70, sometimes 75. I believe on the new 6th they're going to be calling it at 75,000 miles. Now, what that does is it filters out any oil that's coming through the crankcase and dumping back into the turbo to go back through your intake system. So if you're doing a lot of heavy towing or anything like that, then you probably want to get that thing replaced on a quicker interval than 75,000 miles, especially if we're starting to see oil through the hot side CAC tube coming out of the turbo. Now, mind you, when we start doing our CCV filter services on these, we're also still going to be removing the EGR cooler and cleaning out the EGR cooler. So do I recommend doing it early, yes. If your driving conditions dictate that you need to probably do that a little bit sooner, do it sooner. It ain't gonna hurt nothing. You're not gonna hurt the motor by changing that filter sooner. So
Got you.
yeah. And then another one of the maintenance cycles or intervals that they're talking about is the fuel filters being at 15K. Okay, I can deal with that unless you're buying dirty fuel from somewhere. Then get them done. Like if you're getting your fuel off of a farm, you know, because you have a bulk tank there, probably going to want to change out the filters sooner than 15K. They're also saying 15K on the air filter, but you know that's going to totally be dependent on driving styles and conditions and your environment. I've seen those things get packed off with bugs in the middle of summer at 5K. So again, needs to be inspected at every oil change, and if it dictates it needs to be replaced sooner, replace it sooner. Same with your cabin air filter. You know, every oil change, cabin air filter gets pulled and inspected for replacement. Now, on a side note, there are aftermarket companies out there that make cabin air filters that are cleanable and re-oiled just like a K&N. In fact, all of my entire family, we all drive Rams, we all have K&N cabin air filters, and there's a special cabin air filter cleaner kit. So, you know, as far as the service intervals up here that are recommended by Stellantis, that's them. I'm also going to recommend further that we do an induction injection cleaning process. I've showed you guys in at least one, maybe not two videos about the induction injection cleaning process. I'm going to recommend that every 30K. And if you're doing a lot of like transport drivers or anything like that, get it done sooner if you want to fork out the money for it. It is kind of a little bit of an expense, but if you're driving like that, you probably should take care of the motor and get that done. Another one of the intervals that's not really listed in the owner's manual or the service procedures is your four-wheel drive fluids, your front differential, rear differential, and your transfer case. 30,000 in extreme duty, and extreme duty is a lot based on climate. So if you're in snow and ice a lot, if you're up and down grade all the time, if you're doing a lot of towing, then you're probably going to want to get those done sooner. We recommend 30K in this area.
Yeah.
So
now I got to ask you a question, because I mentioned this in another video. So you see up here, you even pointed this out earlier today. You see this block off plate? What do you think Ram should have did on this new Cummins?
Made it active. I mean, if we can open that up and help redirect the heat off of the engine, why not do it? Put a friggin' little scoop on there to push the hot air on that engine off of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate doing little fakey hood scoops, but they look cool, don't they?
They look cool. Now the heat extractors do work.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They help pull it away.
Yeah.
Again, you've got a scoop there. Let's take advantage of it and actually make it functional.
Yeah.
Put some fins on it and push that air down.
Yeah.
Get it out of the engine compartment. One of the biggest killers, which we didn't talk about, the biggest killer on a diesel engine, but one of the biggest killers on a Cummins is heat. Especially on 3rd, 4th, 5th gen. I'm not sure on the 6th gen yet, but cylinders 5 and 6, they don't have enough coolant flow going back there, and that's why companies like Fleece have the coolant bypass, where you can install that into the back of the head, and it helps redirect that hot coolant from the back to the front on a thermostat, and it allows for a cooler, much more even temperature throughout the whole entire engine. Cummins, they don't like heat as far as that's concerned. Don't get that confused with trying to change the temperature on which you're running your coolant at. Remember, diesel engines like heat so that they can burn off carbon and soot. So that's a whole other conversation we're going to have later down the road. But for the hood scoop, they should have made it more functional.
All right, Josh, I know how much you love glow plugs, so what are your thoughts on these?
All right. So all I've seen is another video of the glow plug location. Now, from what I can see from that video, they closely resemble the EcoDiesel glow plugs.
Oh no.
And if we go back to the earlier versions of the EcoDiesel where those things would snap off every time you tried to remove them, I hope to God they didn't do that same style. I hope they did a much more robust glow plug like the newer generation, you know, the dual EGR crap on those Eco Diesels, and they made it to where it's a lot thicker so that they don't snap off. You can actually, you know, pull them out pretty easily. Boy, and they're underneath. We've got a picture that we're gonna splice into here of the upper valve train and exactly where those glow plugs are. They're underneath the valve cover, and I just hope they don't give us a problem on replacing those things, because that could be a very costly repair if those glow plugs start freezing up into the block or into the head. Sorry, into the head. Don't castrate me on that one, please. Yeah, glow plugs. Ugh.
And then they did do a new turbo geometry, or I said that wrong. The geometry, variable geometry turbocharger. Excuse me, I'm messing up here too.
They did. I haven't got a lot of information on the new turbo yet. I know it's a little bit different than the typical VGT turbos. I hope they resolved a lot of the problem with the vanes getting clogged up and burning out the turbo control module. That's been a massive problem ever since VGT's come out on a Cummins. Is the vanes get carboned up and sooted up and can't go their full travel, and the turbo boost control module is actually trying really hard to move the vanes, and it burns those out. So hopefully they did something a little bit different. Maybe they took a cue from like the Fleece Cheetah that handles that way better than a factory VGT turbo, and I don't know, time will tell. We'll see. And yeah, we're gonna end this one right here. We're gonna take her for a test drive, and we're gonna get into a little bit of numbers on the transmission, the new TorqueFlite. I don't like that. We're gonna call it a Powerline because it sounds way better than TorqueFlite. I really don't want to bring back 1950s and 60s reminiscent TorqueFlite transmission. Anyway, thanks for watching. You know, click the like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Tell your friends, hey, go check out this guy's YouTube page. But for now, we're gonna let you get. We're gonna go take this baby out for a drive. We'll talk to you soon.